Good morning, everyone. Just checking the mic. Okay, so good morning, everyone. Uh, Very early in the morning, 5 o'clock. As I have mentioned yesterday in a late night Canvas posting, we are taking this course as an additional class to cover the background material that we require for units 4 and 5 in the web technologies course that is on uh, JDBC, Java Database Connectivity. So this will be lecture 6. So this will be the agenda for today. I'll also briefly discuss about the softwares we need to install. So this particular lecture and the next lecture that is tomorrow, which will also be at 5 in the morning, it will teach you about SQL. Okay, so SQL stands for Structured Query Language. It's a language which we use to extract information from databases. Now you're having a separate course on databases this semester, a theory course and also a lab course. However, the problem is for our discussion on web technologies, that is units 4 and 5, we require some background information on databases. Okay, for that, because all these courses go parallelly, you know, the course on DBMS will go at a particular pace, our course will be going at a particular pace, so I can't be waiting for uh, SQL coverage in the other courses. Okay, so what I'll be doing is whatever is required for our lecture on JDBC, the background material, the basic background material on SQL, I'll be covering in today and tomorrow's session. So I'll brief you, tell you about databases and SQL, and then we'll move on to the software part. So databases are present everywhere. Okay, so you're yet to be introduced to the concepts of databases in your theory course, but databases you see them everywhere. Say for example, you're doing your banking transactions. Say for example, you do a credit card transaction, and credit card transactions, each and every transaction which you do is being captured in the backend database of your bank. Okay, and that's the reason why all your authentication is happening, because your card details are stored somewhere, and when you make a transaction, the bank is verifying whether this is a valid transaction or not. Okay, so in your telecommunications, all your SMSs and WhatsApp chats, they're also stored somewhere, because if you want, you are able to retrieve messages some many years back, so they are stored somewhere. Emails, all your communication, your Gmail, all your emails, you can see messages some decades back. I can access my email, for example, 10 to 15 years back. Those emails are still available, they are stored somewhere. When you log into Gmail, your authentication, your user ID and password are being authenticated against some value stored in the database. And all your reservations, your railway reservations, your bookings, anywhere, you see databases are everywhere. I mean, you just look around, you'll see databases are everywhere. So the objectives of this particular lecture is, by the end of this lecture, you must be having a, and also by the end of tomorrow's lecture, two lectures will be taking on SQL. Today it will be on basic SQL, tomorrow on a bit advanced SQL. So by the end of these two lectures, you should be having an idea how to extract information from databases, especially from large databases. We are speaking here about uh, enterprise level applications where there'll be millions of rows. Okay, so how we'll be extracting information from large databases. So that will be the SQL part. There's also a database design part that is not required for our course. Okay, but that will be covered in your theory course in RDBMS. That is also important. That is basically how you go about designing the databases. There will be discussing about ER diagrams, normalization up to third normal form, and even BCNF. And that will be covered in the theory course. We will not be going into that, but that will be also be one of the objectives of a DBMS course. Okay, and lastly, we will be covering some contemporary tools. Okay, so working on databases locally, database which is sitting inside your system is fine, uh, but when it comes to real life applications, usually we work on databases that are located remotely. So in this a couple of sessions, you'll also have an opportunity to work on remote databases. Okay, I'll tell you how is that's going to happen. You're basically going to work on my system. Okay, so the database will be sitting in my system, and you will be connecting to it remotely and working on the SQL queries. Before we get there, a couple of announcements. Okay, so we have started the course on July 18th. So in the first lecture, we have discussed about HTML. In the second lecture, we have discussed about CSS. Okay, in the third lecture, we have discussed about JavaScript. That's a new language we have introduced to. In lectures 4 and 5, we have discussed about XML. Okay, so that completes 3 units. So we have already covered 3 units of the syllabus. And this lecture and the lecture tomorrow, these are not part of your official syllabus. Okay, so lecture 6 and 7 on SQL is the background knowledge we require to cover units 4 and 5, that is on JDBC. So they are not part of the official syllabus, and that's why I'm not taking these classes in the regular timings. Okay, the regular session of 10:40, I'll be taking the official syllabus. These two lectures, today and tomorrow, are just to give you the background information. Okay, and these classes are recorded. And I know this is too early in the morning, and I don't think anybody has joined, but that's understandable. It's not an official class, and I won't be taking any attendance. Okay, this is just for your information, the background knowledge, and I'll be recording these sessions and posting the videos, video links to you. You can watch them when you're free. Okay, but by the time we start unit 4 and 5, that's on August 4th on Wednesday, be sure you watch these two lectures so that you'll be having a basic idea about SQL. Okay, so once you complete these two sessions today and tomorrow, on Wednesday and Friday, that is August 4th and 6th, will be starting unit 4 and 5 in a syllabus, that is about Java database connectivity. So with that, we'll be completing 5 units in a syllabus. Okay, so we have started on July 18th, and by August 6th, we'll be completing 5 units. I know that the pace is a bit fast, but that's the way basically I teach. Okay, I've been telling this repeatedly. This particular course requires at least 2 rounds of revision. Okay, so what I'm doing is, first I'm giving you a preliminary information, so we're going at a slightly faster pace. Okay, so even if you understand like 50 to 60% of what I'm saying, that's fine. We'll come back when we do the revision. I'll focus on the topics to focus from an examination point of view. I'll be discussing about the previous year's question papers. Okay, I'll provide you the material. Okay, and how to present in the exam, because in exam structure is more important. The valuation in external exams will be done by professors, and uh, there's a certain structure and style you have to present the content. Okay, so all those stuff we'll be discussing when we come to the revision part. Okay, so by the end of 1 month, that is July 18th to August 18th, we'll be completing the syllabus. We have only 6 units for this semester. As I already mentioned, this semester is also going to be 70% syllabus. So even though your syllabus has 8 units, you'll be covering only 5.5 to 6 units as per the 70% syllabus. Okay. So the timings, I know for the past few classes, it's been quite harsh on you. We've been meeting at slightly odd timings, 7 in the night. Uh, Classes are going up to 8:39. I'm aware of that, but uh, for the past 1 month, and maybe even for the next 1 month, semester exams are going to the university. Uh, Almost every batch is having exams. Okay, starting from BTech second year, third year, final year. MCA, MSc, MCA third year, second year is completed. Uh, the first year exams for MC, MSc, and MTech have to be completed. And once they are completed, again the BTech second year, third year for the second semester will start. So it's slightly busy at the university, uh, and I'm sort of stuck in the some administrative work for exams related to the back end work. Okay, so this is like stuff related to, you know, room allotment, and checking the OMR sheets, the question papers, and bundling, and dispatch, and then all the administrative back end stuff. So when the exams are going on, I'll not be in a position to take the classes, the official classes at 10:40. So however, uh, as you're aware, what we've been doing for the past 1 month is, whenever there is class, If we are unable to meet at 10:40, we are making it up the same day at 7 o'clock or 7:30 in the night. And I'm very thankful for you that you're joining, and it's been great attendance. Out of the class of 49, we're regularly having about 45, and that's really amazing. Thanks for that. Once the exams are completed, we'll be resuming classes at the normal timings of 10:40. Okay, but till the exams are over, this will go on for some time. Even your exams, so for semester exams, have to start. I think for another 1 month or so. This is what we are expecting. Okay, and some of you have already enrolled on Canvas. Some are yet to enroll. So please, those who haven't enrolled, please enroll on Canvas. So Canvas will be a single point, information point for all the information that I will be posting, whether it's related to the lecture slides or any software code or the assignments or material. Any information I'll be posting on Canvas. So some are yet to join. So please join on Canvas, and also make sure you get the notification settings correct. Okay. Uh, Otherwise, you'll be missing out on the notifications. So, so what is this today's and tomorrow's lecture on SQL? What is it has to do with your theory course? Okay, so your theory course on RDBMS. Okay, that will be introducing to your more formal coverage of databases. So that will be including stuff like relational model, relational algebra and calculus, design principles, dependencies, normal forms, and some other topics like transactions and concurrency control. Whereas the lab course on DBMS, and which you're more interested today and tomorrow, is a more hands-on experience. Okay, so we will be using SQL to get stuff, to extract information from databases. But even though we don't require dependency theory and normal forms, that's very important. Okay, so when you want to design databases for first principles, if you want to have a good database schema, uh, the knowledge on database theory, the functional dependencies, normalization, they're all very important. Okay, so yes, for our course on web technology, that's not required, but don't neglect it in your DBMS course. That is equally as important as SQL. Okay, so I said there'll be two classes on SQL. So today's lecture will focus on basic SQL. Okay, so SQL is as a language. Think of it as a language, but it's not a programming language like JavaScript or Python or C++ or Java. It's not a programming language. Okay, so this is a you'll get to see shortly. It's mostly basic commands. Okay, it's nothing more than commands. You can also get it quite advanced in terms of procedural language. You can do that, but the basic SQL is all about commands. Okay, so the second aspect is database design. Uh, for that, slightly, I mean, the focus there will be in the units 1, 2, and 3 till JavaScript. We have seen how to develop the front end part of applications. So there is a web application, there is a front end and a back end. So we have till now learned how to design the front end part using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So now our web page is all looking fanciful and good, but still it's a static website. It's just displaying the information we provide. The users are not able to interact with it. Okay, so the real power of any web application comes through when users enter data. Okay, so in units 4 and 4, what we're doing is we'll be connecting our applications to the database, and for that we use what is known as Java database connectivity. So that will be the second aspect of our focus. Okay, how we hook up the applications, the front end applications, to the back end database. Okay, so for the first part on SQL queries, our lectures will correspond to Unit 2 in your theory course on DBMS. Okay, so there in Unit 2, you have SQL. So that is a correspondence. And for Units 2 and 4, okay, for example, for a JDBC class, okay, for a JDBC courses, Unit 4, that will be the corresponding theory if you want to look at it. Okay, so that unit 4 in your DBMS course is about database application design and development. There also there's a slight overlap. There also you have some discussion on JDBC, but in our course we'll be discussing in more detail. Two units are devoted exclusively, units 4 and 5, to JDBC. So those two units are the prerequisites for our units, but I'm assuming that those units are not yet started. So whatever basic knowledge is required for our purpose, I'll be providing. And the last prerequisite is not exactly a hard requirement. If you have some familiarity with command line, it will be useful because you, I mean, You can use SQL Plus or you can use some graphical user interface, but in industry, SQL Plus is more common. So if you have some familiarity with command line, it will help, but otherwise, it's fine. So the programming environment. So in this lab, I mean, when I say lab, I mean, we'll be working on software part in this today and tomorrow class. So Oracle is the software we're using. Okay. So along with Oracle, we need command line SQL Plus or SQL Developer. Either one of them is fine. We don't need both. What I suggest is you install the SQL Developer. Okay. So basically, it works like this. So there, so don't get confused. There are two courses going on here. One is your database course, which also has a associated lab course. So that is a DBMS theory and DBMS lab course. Here our course is web technologies, which has, among other things, some focus on databases. Okay. So for your DBMS theory and lab course, you'll be requiring Oracle installed. That's what is installed in our university lab. But maybe because most probably you're not going to come back to the uh, offline classes anytime soon. So uh, I don't know how your faculty in RDBMS will be covering Oracle. It might be MySQL or some other database. I'm not sure about it. But for our course, we'll be taking up Oracle because that's what traditionally we have been doing for the past batches. So we'll be continuing and doing it on Oracle. And for that purpose, uh, you need to get Oracle. If you want to practice, you need to install Oracle on your system. But I'll be offering you a slightly uh, easier alternative. And the alternative is if you install SQL Developer, that's another application. That's not Oracle. SQL Developer, if you install, it will allow you to connect to remote databases. Okay. So I'll be providing access to my system, my database, and through SQL Developer, you can connect to the database in my system, and you can work on all the datasets provided. You need not install Oracle. You need not download datasets. Everything is available in my database. Okay, you just need to connect to it and work on it. Okay, for your DBMS class, however, uh, you have to do what your faculty suggests. Maybe they will ask you to install Oracle or some other software like MySQL. I don't know. Okay, so that is the distinction you have to do. Okay, so my Oracle, how I set up Oracle on my computer is not that important to you, but just I thought I'll be giving you a flavor. Actually, my my computer and database are what is we call cloud. Okay, so I rent computers and databases on the cloud on the AWS, that is the Amazon Web Services platform. They have computers. I mean, these are not physical computers. Okay, these are cloud instances of various specifications. So you can get very powerful specifications. So I am currently working on a computer that's in the cloud on a 64 GB RAM, but you can get any computer you like say for example, you have even instances that have 25,000 GB RAM. These are crazy high performance machines. Okay, so if you want to focus on faster processing, you can go for systems with higher RAM, or you can also, if you're interested in getting more storage, you can also get into instances having a lot of GB. Okay, so this is how I connect from my computer to the cloud computer and work on it. Okay, so that is not required for you. I'm just giving us information how we are going to connect to my database. Okay, so as far as Oracle installation is concerned, that's the software we'll be working. There are three parts. Okay, there's Oracle, SQL Plus, and SQL Developer. For our purpose, you need not install Oracle or SQL Plus. 1 and 2 are optional. That's not required. Okay, that might be required for your database course. For our purpose, what I require you to install is SQL Developer. So once we have SQL Developer installed, you can connect to remote databases. Okay. So Oracle Core, I'll be skipping. I thought I'll be showing the installation steps, but that's not required. Maybe you can use these screens for your Oracle installation if required for your other codes. Okay. Installing entire Oracle can be sometimes be quite tricky. Okay, so you need to especially SQL Plus, you need to change the environment variables, path variables. So if you're not used to it, it might be quite advanced. So usually I don't suggest installing Oracle directly. Okay, for our purpose, you just install SQL Developer. Okay, this is important. Okay, SQL Developer, you can go to this website. It's just a fairly simple installation. Okay, uh, even the JDK comes along with it. So it's a slightly bigger file, around 400 MB, but it's mostly clicking on next. Okay, there's nothing complex about this installation. Okay, so once it's installed, you'll get a screen like this. I'll show you how to connect. Okay, and uh, you need to connect to the login credentials I provide. So I'll be providing the host ID, host name of my system. So you have to enter it here. Okay, and a username, password. Everybody enter in this format. Okay, student roll number 1 can enter as student 1. Okay, roll number 49 can enter as student 9. Okay, you just enter that username. Password is password for everyone. Okay, that's same. And the host name, I mean, this is where you have to enter. This is exactly everyone has to enter this. Okay, this is the ID of the remote database, my remote database. Okay, so you're connecting to this, so you need to enter this as the host name. Port number, just 1521, that's the default port for Oracle. And SID, under SID just write demo. Okay, and then click on connect. Okay, so this is once SQL developer is installed. Once it's installed, you get this screen. And okay, and then this is what you'll be getting. Okay, so you can find the tables and work on the tables. uh, just just run this small command, select star from admin.cyclones, and if you see a table like this, everything is fine. Okay, so I thought I'll also briefly tell you about the importance of SQL in job market. It's not really required for a course, but since we are dealing with databases, I'll tell you this is a very important course, especially your lab course on DBMS. SQL is along with today, if you look at the job market, the most promising fields are in the fields of machine learning, cloud computing, front-end software engineering, there's the web application development, and uh, SQL. This is about databases. So in this semester, you are learning about web application development in our course on web programming, and also you're learning about databases. These are very powerful subjects. They'll be very useful for your jobs. Okay. So, I mean, if you are just having an eye on the job market and your seniors where they are getting recruited, you will see a lot of is being talked about on machine learning, deep learning, okay, data analytics and stuff like that. Okay, it's all about data. So if you have technologies related to data, either it could be data analytics or even data wrangling or data engineering, all those sort of jobs today are in very high demand. So SQL is one of the most in demand skills in this area. If you are planning to get into data science or data analytics, machine learning, deep learning, those sort of stuff, Python and SQL, these are the two skills that you have to, I mean, they are these two skills along with cloud computing together will make you a perfect choice for recruitment. Um, any survey you look at, I mean, you will see this. Okay, Python and SQL are always at the top of the list of any survey. And this is what the job market today is. Okay, Python and SQL is a powerful combination along with cloud computing. Okay, I have to add that. That is uh, AWS. That's what we are using today. But there are other options also like Microsoft Azure. You can also have Google, but Google is not that popular. Okay, so Python and SQL you have to be uh, by the end of your course, by the time you graduate, uh, make sure you learn a bit of Python and SQL. Okay, and I have just shown some job postings which require SQL. Okay, from very top companies. I mean, this is for example a posting on Google. There's a posting in Canada on Google. Okay, and they're asking experience in Postgres. So my I speak some SQL. Okay, anything is fine. Again, data science at Google posting. Again, they're asking SQL experience in SQL. Okay, a data analyst posting at Google Atlanta. Again, experience in working with databases and SQL database queries. Product analytics posting. Again, it's a Google posting. You can see that again asking experience with articulating product questions, pulling data from databases. That is SQL. Okay, so many postings. You see, this SQL is a very a standard requirement. This is a I think this is a posting from Facebook. Okay, uh, is it? Yeah, I think this is a Facebook posting or Microsoft posting. This is a Microsoft posting. Okay, and again they're asking about SQL Server. Microsoft SQL Server is a separate product on SQL, okay? But the concepts are same. This again is a posting of Microsoft on SQL database. They're again asking on the working knowledge of SQL clusters. Data and AI. This is about business intelligence and data and artificial intelligence. Again, they're asking one of the requirements will be about experience in databases like MySQL or PostgreSQL. Okay, this is a posting on Facebook. Job postings at Facebook, a data scientist. Again, they're asking experience in SQL and preferably Python also. Okay, another posting at Facebook. Again, fluency in SQL. Okay, one more job on Instagram. This is a posting at Instagram again, experience in SQL. Okay, so these are the very latest posting I have pulled up it basically maybe like 1 month back or so. This is June 8th posting. So these are recent jobs. Okay, these are recent jobs, top companies. SQL is a very highly in demand skill. So the way you should be looking at this particular course is not like a course to complete or an exam to pass, but think of SQL uh, as a skill that will be extremely useful for your job hunting. Okay, so make sure you learn SQL well. So before we get into our stuff of software, where I'll be showing the demo of SQL, I just want to tell you like there are some 5 skills you must learn. This is not related to the course we are dealing with, or this is in general. Okay, as far as your career advancement is concerned, if you are in the industry, if you're getting into computer science, any graduate, whether BTech or postgraduate students like you in MSc, MSc, MCA, I always keep telling that there are 5 skills that this is something which I tell to every batch. Okay, there are 5 skills that everyone, each one of you who are into the field of computer science should be knowing. Okay, so first of all, you need a programming language. Okay, this programming language is apart from C. So C doesn't count. I mean, C is a very good language, but you need a object-oriented programming. Okay, so you need to know one language other than C, and that can be C++. It could be Python. It could be JavaScript. Anything, but preferably Python. Okay, Python is a very in-demand programming. So but this is not for this semester. Okay, this is by the time you graduate, by the time you pass out of university, when you're searching for jobs. These are the 5 skills that you should absolutely be having. Okay, so first of all, you should be knowing one programming language other than C. Second, you need to know operating system other than Windows. So Windows really is not a. I mean, people in the industry use either Linux or Unix. Okay, a command line. Windows is more targeted to the uh, basic users, home users. It's convenient to use, but the real power of operating systems comes into Linux or Unix derivatives, as we call them. Okay, so you should be knowing one operating system other than Windows, and then you should be knowing one database. So here today, and also in your DBMS course, you'll be learning about Oracle or some other software. Anything is okay. Okay, so there are various commercial versions of Oracle of SQL. So Oracle is there. MySQL is very popular. Microsoft has a product on SQL Server. There's PostgreSQL. There is also SQLite. Okay, so you should be knowing at least one database, and once you know one database, you can easily shift to others. The basic syntax is uh, same across all SQL products. Okay, minor differences might exist, but the basic syntax is similar across all databases. So if you know one database, you'll be able to easily switch to other database. And then you require one OLAP tool. Okay, so maybe if you like ask me 10 to 15 years back, I would have said this is a definitely hard requirement. You should be knowing. So OLAP tools are like about business intelligence. So IBM Cognos, MicroStrategy, Informatica is very popular. Okay, at least it used to be very popular. So anybody uh, anybody had been to Hyderabad, and there's an area called Amirpet where they teach all sort of languages. I mean, if you want to go to US, that's really the place where they take up software training. Number of software training institutes. Okay, so in those days, Informatica used to be such a huge skill. I mean, you just do a course in Informatica, you used to get a visa in 1 month and just fly off to US. Okay, so right now, OLAP tools, I will not say it's a hard requirement, but because what happened was Python is now emerging as the number one language, and Python has a number of data science libraries. So like scikit-learn and Keras, Pandas, deep learning also libraries are there. So if you learn Python and a related data science libraries, that will be sufficient. You don't need to learn about any OLAP tool. Okay. And the fifth requirement is cloud. Cloud computing is a big thing in today's market. Okay. So you should be knowing at least one uh, cloud platform, like it could be Amazon Web Services, it could be Microsoft Azure or Google Cloud. Google Cloud is not that popular, so at least AWS or Azure. One of them you should be knowing. So if you know these five skills, you'll be at a huge advantage compared to your peers when it comes to jobs. Okay, so this is not for this semester, but over a period of time, maybe in a couple of years, you should be having a basic grasp about all these five areas. Okay, so we'll be now starting our demonstration on the software. So before the next class, what I want you to do is, those who have not joined on Canvas, please join and install SQL Developer. I'll tell you how to connect to my computer, my database from your SQL Developer. You need not install Oracle. Okay, uh, installing Oracle can be tricky, so I will not encourage you to install Oracle at this stage. So just install SQL Developer. It's very easy to install. I will also be posting screenshots of how to install SQL Developer on Canvas. Okay, and then once you install SQL Developer, you can practice on my database. So what I'll be doing is I'll be opening up my database. You can connect it to the database maybe like 2 hours a day. I'll fix up some time, maybe you can tell what time you're convenient, but basically I'm thinking at, say for example, at night 9 to 11. Okay, so for the next 1 week, that is starting from today or tomorrow till next class is on 4th, 6th, Saturday, Sunday, 11th. Okay, so till 11th, for the next 10 days, maybe I'll be opening up the database, and every day night 9 to 11. So 2 hours you can work on my database and practice SQL queries. Okay, so after that, that's not required for us. The reason why I'm putting time restriction is uh, I don't know how your theory course and lab course on DBM is going to work out. Maybe there'll be most probably, I don't know, I'm not sure, but they might be requiring to work on MySQL because it's comparatively easy. If it is physical class in university, we anyway work on Oracle, but I don't know how online DBMS will be working. So I don't want. I mean, you shouldn't be getting confused on both of this. So I'll be putting it at a very minimal level, just 2 hours a day. At any time, if you're convenient, you can. If you're free at that time, you can work. Otherwise, it's fine. Okay, just for practice. Okay. Okay. In case of any issues, just contact me. And now will be switching to uh, other demonstration. I have already opened up SQL Developer. So I'm also connecting to a remote database. So the remote database is, as I told you, it's in cloud. Okay, so uh, this is Amazon RDS Cloud Computing. So I have a database set up here. Okay, uh, this is all not required for you. Okay, all you need is the connection string which I suggested earlier. You need to enter those connection parameters and you'll be connected to the database. Okay, so right now I'm connected to the database. Just give me a second. I'll just open up the documentation so that it'll be easy for you to follow. Then we can work on the software. Just a second. You just give me a second. It'll be loading. Today the computer is taking up a lot of resources. I'm running a lot of applications parallelly. Okay. There's also video recording going on. Okay, so this is the handout that I'll be posting. I'll be posting it on Canvas. Okay. You can go to Canvas. Uh, I have posted already lecture slides of the previous lectures. Up to lecture 5 is already available. You can download, and lecture 6 and lecture 7 tomorrow. Today and tomorrow I'll be posting the this handout. Okay, so this is for you to practice SQL. And right now I'm also going to show you how to work on the software. So don't waste time on typing the commands, okay? So just copy paste them. All the commands are available in this handout, okay? So one thing you need to remember is when I have some sample tables here, okay? I have created some tables. So I think the computer is eating up a lot of resources. So many applications are running parallelly, just taking time, okay? So I have some tables. Okay, so I have created some tables. Okay, so there's a cyclones table, there's a some movies table, and some college related data, a students database, and all. So when you're working on your system, so say for example, I'll tell you what this command means, but the way I will work is like I will straight away write the name of the table. So say for example, I will write like this. So this is a command. I'll tell you what that means, but I will write it like this. I will write just the name of the database. So cyclones is the a data set available here. So I will straight away write the name of the data sets. But when you are working, because you're connecting to my database, what you need to do is you need to just prefix the name of the data set with admin dot. Okay, so you have to write select star from admin dot cyclones. So whenever there is a data set, the name of the data set, any of this, okay, in the handouts, I'll be just be mentioning any command will be having just the simple name, but you have to prefix it with admin dot that corresponding dataset name, because you are working in my workspace. Okay, you have access to my database, but you are a different user. I have created user for all of your roll numbers, and you are accessing my user space, and that's why. And you are a separate user space. So the table space in Oracle, there is a concept of table spaces, and uh, you are accessing my table space. So that's why you have to prefix the name of the dataset with admin dot. Otherwise, you'll get an error that that particular table is not existing. Okay, so just remember that point. Okay. Okay, so uh, there's some basic commands how to connect to database, but that's not required. Okay, this is for local installation. Since you're anyway connected to the remote database, this is not required, but these are some basic commands when you start up a database. So how to create a user, how to grant the connection privileges, how to unlock the sample HR account, clear screen exit. These are all basic commands. That's not required for you. So what is the basic commands in SQL are, so in the database you have to create tables. Okay, so table is just a combination of rows and columns. So in the rows you'll be having the individual records, and the columns will be about the attributes. Okay, so say for example the students database will be having rows, individual students, and the columns can be data related to students like the marks and all. Okay, so that will be a table. So in SQL, in Oracle, if you want to create a table, this is the command you'll be using. Okay, so this will be creating a table. So you say create table, that is the command, and then you give a name of the table. So you can, so say for example you want to create a table by name persons, you say create table persons, and then you will, in the parenthesis what you'll be saying is the name of the columns. So you want a column for ID. This will be the ID for the person, okay? And then a name. So this table will be having two columns. One is a ID column and another name column. And then we have to also tell about the data type. So ID will be an integer. So in Oracle, you can use int, or you can also use a number. I'll tell you about it later. So ID will be an integer data type. Name will be a varchar. So Oracle, the data type for strings we use is varchar. Varchar stands for variable character. So there's also varchar 2 in subsequent versions of Oracle. In fact, even if you type varchar, I think Oracle automatically converts it to varchar 2. The distinction is not that much important to you, but varchar basically is like if your data doesn't take up the entire space. So say for example, I have defined a varchar of 100. So I don't know what is the maximum length of the name attribute. So some names are long, some names are short. So I just define varchar 100. So just in case that it doesn't take up the entire space, varchar 2 will be more efficient than the regular text data type. Okay. So this is a create table command. And once you create the table, you can insert values into it. And for that, the command will be insert into. Okay. So insert into the name of the table. So say for example, you have already created a table by name jobs. Then you say insert into jobs. And this is how you pass the values to be added. So values, and in the bracket, you'll be passing so this particular uh, jobs database has data set has 5 columns. So we'll be passing the values of the 5 columns. So this particular row will be having values of ODBA or Oracle DBA 20,000 and 50,000. I think only 4 columns or 5. Only 4 columns. Okay. So this is the job code. This is the expansion, minimum salary and maximum salary. Okay. So this will create a new new employee into the jobs database set. Okay. So this is another way of how to insert the value. So here we have 4 values because the data set had 4 columns. But sometimes you need not populate all the 4 values. Say, for example, you're interested only in populating the values of related to job ID and job title. In that case, what we'll do, you have to mention the names of the columns. Okay, here we didn't mention the names of the columns. We directly given the values because we are giving all 4 values. So in that case, Oracle knows the order because there are 4 columns and you're giving them straight away in the same order it will be taking and mapping them. So ODBA goes to job title, Oracle JB goes to job description. Okay, so this will be minimum salary, maximum salary because all the 4 values you're giving, you need not provide the names. But in case you provide only a couple of uh, columns, then you have to tell which columns them. Okay, so that Oracle can map them. So here we're inserting values for only 2 columns. So that's why you have to mention the name of the column. Insert it to jobs, the name of the column, and then the values. Okay, so there's a slight difference between this and this. Okay, here we are giving the values for all the available columns. So that's why you need not mention the names of the columns. But here you are inserting values for only a few columns. That's why you have to tell the name of the column so that Oracle will know where this goes. This goes into job ID and this goes into job title. Okay. And once you create the data set, you can also update it. So there's an update command. Say for example, for all employees whose salary is less than 5,000, we'll discuss this where clause and all. But this is an option which Oracle used to update data sets even after they're created. So this particular example, update employees set salary. This is a keyword. Okay, set salary to salary star. I think there's something wrong here. Salary star. Say for example, 1.1. So salary will be increased by 10%. Okay, for all employees whose existing salary is less than 5,000, this command will increase the salary by 10%. Okay, this is how you update. There's also a delete command. Pretty obvious, simple. You can delete rows from your database. Okay, so this example will delete all those employees whose employee ID is 100. There's only one employee with ID 100, so that record will be deleted. Okay, so truncate, drop, and all these are advanced options. So basically, truncate will keep the structure intact. So the data will be gone, all the rows will be deleted, but the structure, the table will not go. Okay, the data definition, the column names, and all, that will be staying. Drop, on the other hand, will completely remove the table altogether. Okay, and then there are some alter commands. It's about modification. Okay, say for example, you forgot to add a column after creating the table. You want to add a new column, then you can use the alter table command, and this will be adding a new. In this example, it will be adding a new column by name, date of birth, of data type, date. Okay, so you can do all this. Okay, when you have time, you just go through it. Okay, I just give an explanation of the basic commands. Okay, so this is SQL plus. Okay, this is SQL plus. In the handouts, I'll be using SQL plus and also SQL developer. For the demonstration, I'll be using SQL developer because that's what you'll be working on. It will be more easy for you. Okay, so we have CC, a basic command. I'll also just demonstrate if you want create table. Say for example, we are going to create a, say for example, jobs, small table, create table, jobs, and then you have to do the columns. Say for example, I use the job ID, it's a integer, and say name that here varchar. This is how you create a simple. Okay, then we run it. Okay, so I'll be creating the a table called jobs. Okay, that is a blank table. It has not got any data into it. Okay, let's wait for the creation of the table. The system might actually hang up today. We might also have a disconnection if the system is so slow. I don't know. I'll be reconnecting in case the system gets okay. Sometimes you get this message on SQL developer. Okay, the dataset gets keeps reconnecting. That's okay. So here the table jobs is created, okay, but there is no data in it. Okay, so if you want to see the contents, you can see select star from jobs. So if you run it, there's no data. Okay, so that's why there's nothing here. Okay, there's no data. So how do you add values? Okay, so insert into, that's a command, insert into jobs. So ID will be having one, say for example, in the name for it, we can have some Jack. It will be inserting. So column not allowed here. Okay, ID is a number of 38 and name varchar 25. Okay. This column name is not allowed here. What column name? Is this some error or what? Okay, sometimes based on the implementation, your double quotes and single quotes will be providing some problem. Uh, Try to use in SQL Developer single quotes. Okay, so into the jobs database we have a one row inserted. Okay, whenever you want to see data, you use the select star from. So earlier when we did select star, we didn't have any data, but now if you see there's a row inserted. So now we have a new row. Okay, so that is how we insert, create data and insert data into a database. Okay, that we have done in SQL Developer. This is SQL Plus. Okay, this is a command line interface. SQL is a graphical user interface. Insert, you can do all this. Okay, I'll just run through them. Okay, this you can practice, very easy. Date you can do, delete, truncate, basic commands. Okay, you can practice it. You can also change them. Okay, later. Okay, so coming to the a very important command of select. So select is to, select will be selecting the required rows. So usually in commercial applications you need selecting from the database. Say for example, you go to Amazon website and search for a particular product. You want to buy some laptop and you enter the Dell laptop. Okay, so what the Amazon site will be doing is, you will be doing a select command on its database. It will be running, it will be filtering, because you don't want all the products listed on Amazon. You are interested only in laptops, that to Dell laptops. Okay, so when you search for Dell laptops on Amazon, Amazon will take that string and run it, this particular select query. It will run a select query on its database, and it will be getting only those products that satisfy this requirement. So select is used to select, the rows we are interested in. And that condition can be, you can get all the values, or you can based on some conditions. So say for example, here select star from employees. It will select all the values, all columns and all tables, all rows. But maybe you're interested in only employees whose salary is greater than 5,000. So this filtering you can do using select. Okay, select will be using the where clause to do the filtering. Okay, and sometimes there will be so many columns. Say for example, 100 columns, and you're not interested in all the columns. And then in those cases, instead of saying select star, you can say select the column names which are interested. Say you want to see only the employee ID in the first name, and you're not interested in the salary details. Okay, then you can use, instead of select star, you can say select employee ID first name from the employees database. Okay, so this is some basic select uh, features, and then you can use all the regular stuff like boolean operators. And so if you have multiple conditions, you can say select those employees who are having uh, department ID as 100 and salary less than end clause. Okay, multiple conditions you can do it. And you have a between and there's a in wins in the list of these values. So say for example, you want to get the names of the employees who are working in department ID 10, 20, 30. Then you'll be using, there's supposed to be a space between ID and in here. Okay, so you can use this command. Okay, so in, you pass the values in list. Okay, then there is null, is not null. And there's a like operator. Like is a very powerful, it's a wildcard pattern matching character. Okay, so what happens usually is you don't know the exact value. So if you want to do a rough matching, you'll be using like, say for example, mm, uh, let's say I have a movies database, for say for example, or there's a cyclone database. You can work on any one of them. So say for example, I'm just worried the movies database is a bit long. Having about 3,000 rows. I'm just worried it might hang. Let's see. Okay, so the movies database has some 11 columns. Okay, it has an, this is the list of Telugu movies from the beginning, very beginning. Okay, so all the way back to maybe 1930s, or it has some 3,000 films, and it has 11 columns. The name of the, there's a title, there's a year, release date, director, cast, and all this stuff. Okay, so I'll take this data set and just show you the, the like operator. Okay, so I'll not say select star because there's the data is huge. So what I'll do is where I'll say the ID is 10. Okay, just to show you the how the data is going to look like. Say for example, the first nine less than 9. So you have a title attribute. So say for example, Adipurush. I mean, these are all future films. They're not yet released. I think from 21 these are existing films. Okay. You have the year of release and then the release date as a director and the cast. Individually the names are not given, so they're clubbed. So say for example, here you have uh, Mahesh and Babu, Kirti Suresh and all. So the data in real life data will be something like this. Okay, so it will not be nicely formatted and all. So here, say for example, you want to find all films which have a particular hero. So say for example, you want to find out the films where Venkatesh has acted. Okay, so if you do this query where cast is equal to, so this will not return anything. Okay, so what we're saying is the cast should have this value. Okay, okay, so it has written some 16. So here you can see all rows, 16 rows are written. So the cache has only single value. This is directly matching. But if you see, there are many other movies in which Venkatesh is the hero, but the cast has other actors also, and that's why those rows are not written. Okay, so we are saying this should be an exact match. So only 16 movies, okay, has this. So what we can do is you can use a like operator. So like is pattern matching. So it will match. Okay, so there's a percent simple. So percent is like, so any character can come here. Percent means any character. Okay, any number of characters. It could be 0, it could be 1, and it can be any character. So what we are saying is, whenever you see a cast having value containing Venkatesh, and before it can be any characters, after it can be any characters, it can be no characters also, and that's why these will also be written. These 16 will also be written, but apart from the 16, anything that contains Venkatesh will also be written. So let's run this and see. So now we had just 16, but now we'll say 50. So now why we are getting more rows? Because if you see this cast, so Venkatesh is there, and the other actors are also there. So this is how we use wildcard characters. Okay. So all films in which Venkatesh has acted are 50 films we have got. So what's the first film? The first film I think is Kaliyuga Pandavalu. Let's see. వారసుడు వచ్చాడా? కలియుగ పాండవులు. See, this is 1986, so this is the first film, but it's not getting so we can sort it in, or actually also have an option of sorting. So I'll be sorting this with year, okay? So you can use the order by command, order by. Okay, now you'll see the data will be sorted by year, and you see the Kaliyuga Pandavalu is at number 1. So you want to get the latest films. This is the earliest film on top. You want to get the latest, then you can use the descending option. So this will flip the order. The latest film will be 21 will be on top, and this is at end. Okay. So these are the basic commands. So there's a like, there's an order by, and you can go to the explanation later. Okay. So describe is a very powerful command. Okay, keep using it. So describe will be telling you the structure of the data set. Sometimes you don't know when you're giving a new data set, you don't know what are the rows, what are the columns. Say for example, I want to see the cyclone data set, and just want to know, have an idea of what this data set is containing. So I can use the describe command. It will give you the names of the columns, the structure of the data set. Okay. So it's saying these are the names of the columns. So there's an ID column, a start and end date, because cyclones are spread over a period of 3 to 4 days. So the start date and the end date, the name of the cyclone, the category, the landfall date, a place, the areas which are affected, the maximum wind, and the death toll. Okay. So the describe is something which you can use a lot. Say for example, I want to use uh, let us use let us find out the cyclone which has inflicted the most damage. Okay, so most people have died. You want to see, so you can use like select star from cyclones, and you're not interested in all columns. Okay, say for example, I'm interested only in the name and date. Okay, actually most of the cyclones don't have the names, because this uh, convention of naming cyclones has started somewhere around 2000. So old cyclones will not be having names, and you'll be getting null values, but that's fine. Okay, so I'm selecting the name and landfall date from cyclones where I doesn't have any condition. I just want the death toll. Okay, so let's have the death toll. These three columns will be returned. Let's see. Okay, as I said, there will be a lot of null names, but after 2005 or somewhere, you're having also the names of the cyclones. Okay, so this is the death toll. Maybe I just want to order it based on the people dead. Okay, if you recall, if there are any people from Godavari districts, East Godavari, Divisima cyclone in 1977 is a very uh, is the most devastating cyclone. Okay, more than 10,000 people have died. So you're not seeing it here because there are not null values here. So what we'll do is we will sort it. Okay, let's do auto by. So that's how you'll be using it. So these are some examples I have told you. There's also distinct command. We didn't run this. Okay, so let's run it. This is how you get. Okay, so death toll, if you see, you could use the descending command if you want to use to get the most deaths. Okay, so here you have this, the name is not there, but this is Divisima. Okay, where 10,000 people have. This is in 1977. Okay, so this is the Devasima cyclone. Okay, so you can use that. Also a distinct command. Distinct command means, say for example, in from same data set we want to know the names of the categories of cyclones. So when we do select category from cyclones, categories, some the cyclone warning center will be categorizing cyclones on the intensity. So if you see the values are getting repeated because there are some 58 rows in our data set, and some cyclones same category will be having. So the first and the second belong to the same category, so they're getting repeated. So in that case, you can use a distinct command. This will remove the duplicate values. Basically, there are only 6 types of. It also includes null. So basically, there are only 5 categories of cyclones. So each one of the 58 records in the data set belongs to one of these categories. Okay. I think we didn't see Hudud there, but Hudud is also there. Okay. That's in 2014, I think. So. Here it is. Or you can directly say. So you have to be very careful with the names. Okay. What is the spelling they have used? Mm, and do some pattern matching and get the value. Okay, so here it is. 2014, you have the cyclone. Okay, so this landfall and all the values, the maximum speed, the areas affected, and the death toll. Okay, 260 is the maximum speed. So this sort of data you can get. Okay, so distinct we're seeing can combine. Concatenation is just like combining two columns. You can use, say for example, you want to see the only the start date and full date, and you also nicely separated by using some asterisks. You can use this command. Select start date, concatenate. This is the symbol for concatenation in Oracle, and some stars, so it will be displaying nicely. Okay, so this you can use. Is a where clause. Where clause is a condition. So if you want to filter based on some condition, you use the where clause. Say for example, you want to see only the cyclones which have occurred after 2000 January 1st. You can use this condition. So this is known as a date literal. In Oracle, we specify date using something called date literal. So if you want, just don't write 2011. You should write in this format. Date in quotations. You have to write this. Okay. So this is how dates are represented in Oracle. So and clause you can use between in. So all the some explanation like is a pattern matching. So say for example, uh, some examples. So if you want to select students where name whose name begin with A. So earlier we put the percentage symbol at the beginning. So now we're saying it's A percentage, which means the name should start with A. So this is a data set of BTech secondary students, okay, not your class. So the name starting with A, and after that anything it can be. So if you run this query, in that class of 73, you'll be getting only these 4 names. So these are the names that start with A, and after A anything can be there. So this is pattern matching. A percentage. This is names that end with D. We're saying the name should end with D, and before that anything can come. So see, this is ending with D. Okay, this is name that contains and in any position. The words and should be present in the name, and before that and after anything can be there. So these are the 6 names which have and in them. So here this and. Okay, so here this and and. Okay, so that's how we are doing. What does this say? So there is another pattern matching apart from percentage, that is underscore. Underscore is for a single value. Okay, percentage is 0 or any number. There's no restriction on the number of characters, but underscore is saying only one character. So this is saying H should be in the second position. The first position can be any character, but only one character. So this will return the names of those students who have H in the second position, and after that it can be any number of characters. But before that only one character. That's why H is in the second position. So all these names have H in the second position. This is starts with A, and second can be anything but only one. This means at least two characters in length. Okay, and starts with A, at least two characters. This is starts with S and ends with A. In between anything can be there. So these two names starting with S, ending with A, and in between anything can be there. So this is the words W H Y should be present. Okay, and the order should be maintained. Okay, so H should come after W, Y should come after H, but after and before can be any number of characters. So if you see only one name, which contains all the characters W H Y. So there's a W, there's a H and a Y. Okay, and the order is also maintained. Okay, W is here, H is here, and Y is here. Okay. So we see in the order by clause we can use to sort it either in ascending or descending order. And there are a number of functions in Oracle. Okay, so these functions I'll not be going through because there are a lot of functions, and if you're interested, you can go through. For example, there's some mathematical functions, absolute, seeding, floor. Okay, you can use them as per the requirement. Okay, so the date functions. This is you will be covering in your DBMS lab course, so I'm not covering them. Okay, it's not required for our course. I'm just giving you the basic information that is required for our course, web technologies course. Okay, just I'm giving you an overview. This you'll be covering in your DBMS course, so I'm just skipping all this. But the information is provided in the handouts. The information is provided in the handouts. You can use them when required. Okay. So there's some conversion functions and some miscellaneous functions which you can go through. So what is more important for us is the integrity constraints. So integrity constraints are like they're really the heart of the databases. So just a second, I'm just checking whether the volume is working or not. Okay, fine. Okay, so integrity constraints are like the heart of the databases. So they'll be enforcing the business rules in commercial applications. So you have to remember that databases are very they need to be very secure. You just can't add any value which you like. Say for example, bank transactions. There's a bank database, and say the values your balance, for example, 1,000, 10,000. There should be some positive value. You can't have a negative value. Okay, it can't be showing like minus 1,000. What does minus 1,000 mean? Okay, if you have a loan, it can be it could mean that you are owing some money to bank, but for a savings account doesn't make sense. Okay, so there's some rules that database have to ensure. Similarly for date column, date, if you want to have date, say for example joining date, okay, and promotion date in the employees database, if you, the company might be maintaining records for a joining date and the promotion date. Now clearly promotion date cannot be before joining date. Okay, that doesn't make sense. So there are some rules every application will be having, and those will be enforced using what are known as integrity constraints. So the most important constraints are not null, unique, primary key, foreign key, check, and default. Okay, so not null is if we put a condition not null in this example, the person's data set, we're saying ID cannot be null. So what we're saying is forcing every person in this data set to have the ID. So if you try to insert a value, so here we're trying to insert only the value name and not giving ID. So in this example, here we are providing both ID and value. So here one row will be created. But here in this example, we're giving only the name. We're not giving the ID. In that case, you'll get an error. Okay, because you cannot insert null value. So that is a very important constraint. There'll be attributes where we cannot allow null values. Say, for example, in government schemes, you have to provide Aadhaar. So some data sets, if you are entering into the government applications, you, it will be a required column, Aadhaar entry. So there you can use this sort of a not null constraint. Okay. Then there's a unique constraint. Unique constraint means, so I'm dropping this table. So once we create, it's a good idea when you're doing for your local testing. Once you do some testing, basic example, just drop the table and create again, okay? So that you can work on the fresh example. So here, if I create a unique constraint, so this is creating a table, same columns, ID, not null, name, but here in addition to not null, I'm also adding a constraint unique. So what will happen now? So say for example, I've inserted Jack. So one row is created. Now if I try to include another employee, another person with the same ID, and because you have a specified ID to be unique, this will not be allowed. So you'll get a unique constraint violated. Okay. But for Jack, you can have a two. Two is a separate ID. So that will be allowed. Okay. The same value will not be allowed. That's a unique constraint. So all the examples, if you have a primary key. So primary key is a combination of unique and not null. So you can either specify it like this, not null and unique, or you can replace both of them together with a single name known as primary key. So in your database theory course, we'll be discussing more about primary key. So primary key is like the unique identifier. So in any table, there will be a primary key that will be uniquely identifying a row. So no two records in the dataset can be having the same primary key. For example, in your college, no two of you will be having the same registration number. That's a unique field. Okay, it doesn't make sense for two students will be having the same ID registration. So that's the primary key. So it's both unique and not null. You can't allow null values. Every student should be having a registration ID. So that is primary key. And the way you specify it is when creating the data set, you say ID int, that's the data type, and primary key. You can also once you have a table, if you forgot to add primary key later, also you can create the primary key. So for example, here there's already a table created, but I forgot to mention the create the primary key. Later you can use the alter table command and add the primary key. Okay. And then foreign key. Uh, I know your theory course on DBMS has not discussed all this, so this can be confusing to you. The basic idea of foreign key is uh, when we get into when the tables get larger and larger, you want to break them up into smaller tables. It's something what we call normalization. Okay, so having a big bulky table doesn't make sense. There are two reasons. One is, of course, the space constraint and all, but there's a problem with redundancy and also the update anomalies. So say for example, uh, I'm trying to maintain a database of your class. There's some 49 students and I want to record your marks. Okay, uh, say for example, I want to record 6 subjects marks. So what I'll be doing, I'll be having 6 columns. Okay, and I also want to tell you record the faculty who has taught that course. So what happens is, for all your 49 students, the same faculty is teaching a particular course. There are 6 subjects, and for each of the 6 subjects, the faculty is same for all of you. So if I want to record the name of the faculty, that gets repeated because it's the same for all of you. So 49 times I have to say, for example, I have to record the faculty for web technologies. I have to write my name, but I have to write it for all the 49 values. Okay, and the same name. One thing is repetition, but the second thing is even more important. Say for example, the faculty is changed. Okay, my name is changed to some other faculty. Then when I have to update, I have to do it for all the 49 values. It's more work. Work is more, but there's a bigger problem. It could be a inconsistency problem. Say you make an error on one of them, the database will not be consistent. Okay, you have to ensure that all the 49 the same name is replaced. So instead of that, what we do is we pull out it into a separate table and link these two tables. So we have a faculty table which tells who has taught the course for that particular class. That will be maintained a separate table called a faculty table, and the students table will be having only the, say for example, the ID of the faculty. Okay, and all the details relating to the faculty like the name. Okay, if you want the address, the phone number, and all will be separated into a different table. So this is what we do in the case of normalization. Okay, we'll be breaking it up into smaller tables. So in that case, we have the concept of foreign key. So your in the students database, the student database will be having the faculty ID. Now that faculty ID is the primary key in some other table, in the faculty table. Okay, just try to understand. The faculty table has columns like faculty ID, faculty name, okay, maybe age and address, phone number, and all this stuff. That's a separate table. In the students database, for all your 49 students, I'm just mentioning the faculty ID. I just want to know who taught you web technologies and just give me the faculty ID. Say 10. So 10 pertains to my faculty ID, say for example. Then that 10 will be using to go to the faculty table and get all the values. You want to get my values, other details, you have to go to the faculty table using this 10 value and do the mapping. Okay, so that 10 is the primary key in the faculty table, and that's why we call it a foreign key. So in the students database, 10 will be the faculty ID will be the foreign key, and it will be referencing the primary key in the faculty table. Okay, so you can create foreign keys. So I'll just give you an example, okay, so that will be more clear. Say for example, uh, this is students database. Okay, okay, so this is the students database, not of your class. Okay, and these are random values of the subject scores, random values. So 73 values. Okay, so if you see here that there's a name, there's a birthday, and here's a guide. So I there's a random allotment of guides to students, and this is the faculty ID. Okay, I'm not giving the name of the faculty. Okay, so this is known as the foreign key. So why it is called foreign key? This faculty ID is present in some other table. That's in the faculty table. So say for example, roll number one, who is the guide? Is a faculty with ID 4. We don't know any details about this faculty. All the details are present in some other table, in the faculty table. So if you want to know the details, you have to see this faculty table having ID 4. So you go to the faculty table, and there will be having the ID column 4. So there will be having the other details. There are further details also for faculty, but that's split into some other tables. Okay, so faculty ID 4, we are getting here faculty qualification. But if you want to see what are the research areas, then you can go to research, and then again based on the faculty ID, you can get the research areas. Okay, maybe you want to know the roles. What are the roles? The different roles they're having in this university. So faculty ID 4. Okay. So you can see how we are splitting the data across multiple tables. Okay, so for in the students database, the guide is a foreign key, and this faculty ID is a primary key in the faculty table. That's why we call it as a if you see the SQL command that is used to create the table. I have created a simple SQL query, but SQL in the backend will be adding a lot of complex things. So don't worry about the SQL command. I'll show you the important aspect. The important aspect is how we define the foreign key. So in this table, the guide is the foreign key, and it will be referencing the faculty ID in the faculty table. Okay. So that query I'll be showing at the time of creation how we have done this. So here, when the students table was created, if you see guide, we're given a number data type, and if you see here, it's foreign key. Guide is referencing the faculty table, the ID column. So when we're defining the table itself, we have said this guide is a foreign key. It will be referencing the primary key in the faculty table. Okay. So this is very important. Okay, this linkage is very important. Why it is important? Say for example, if I change the faculty, say for example, that particular faculty has resigned and is gone, it's no more. Now there are students allotted to that guide. They have to be you have to reassign them. Okay, so the database should not allow deletion of the faculty unless we do some reassignment. Okay, so those sort of things are very important to maintain the referential integrity of databases. Okay, so we'll also look at that example. Say for example, in the students database, say for example, student one has a guide 4, right? So what I'll now try to do is Are there any other guides with a lot of students? Or we can even run the, let's say, I want to find where guide is equal to, say, for example, 10. Okay, so there's a faculty with ID 10 who's guiding 3 students. Okay, so what I will like now try to do is I'll try to delete that particular faculty, and let's see whether the database will permit it or not. So delete from faculty where ID is equal to 10. I'm just asking the database to delete from the faculty table the ID 10 faculty. And let's see what happens. You'll see it's not allowing. Okay, it's saying integrity constraint is violated. Child record found. And what is this? This is because of the foreign key primary key relation. So this is saying okay, you're deleting the faculty with ID 10. Okay, faculty with ID 10. I'll try to do, but there are other rows that are depending on them. Okay, so say if this faculty is gone, if I'm removing this, what to do with the students who have guide allotment of faculty 10? So that will become blank. Okay, but it will not allow it, and that's the reason why we want the linkage. Okay, so whenever we want that sort of a linkage between tables, we use the foreign key concept. Okay, so there are other constraints like check values. Say for example a particular value, you can use the default if you don't want to specify say for example in the guide allotment, uh, let's see, all students. So all students have some guide allotted. Okay, so say for example I'll now create a new student, insert into students. Let's say ID. The roll number, new roll number 74, and let's say the value will be a test student. So there's no roll number. So this is roll number, not ID. So one row is inserted. Okay. So let's see whether it's added or not. So there's a new row added. Okay. Here it is 74 roll number test student. The other values are null. Okay. So the guide is not there here, isn't it? The guide is not there. So say for example you want to have a default value. So say the faculty table, all the students who don't have the guide assigned, let us assign the principal. Okay, so students who doesn't have the guide allotted by default goes to the principal, faculty ID 3. So there you can use the default. Okay, so when we at the time of creation we mention the default value. So here you can do, so we already have a table, so then we have to alter it. Okay, so then we can use this command. This is at the time of creation. Since you already have a table, you can do this. Okay, so we will alter the table. The table students is altered. Now we have a default value. So say for example now we insert into students a new uh, student, but we're not specifying the guide. Okay, so this will be say 75, and the value is test student 2. The row is inserted, and now let us see what is the value. Earlier we had a null value for guide. So let us see what happens now. So say for the second student, the faculty ID is 3. Earlier it was null because now we have specified a default value. Okay, so that is how default works. These are the examples you can go through. I just explained it, done all of this. Okay, so here there's a, so we'll discuss about joins in the tomorrow's class. Okay, uh, so this is very important how we join tables. Okay, so as I discussed earlier, if you want to in the students database, we only had the faculty ID, but you want to have the information of other details of the faculty, like the research areas and all. You have to combine two tables because the data is available elsewhere. So there will be joining the tables. Okay, so that concept we'll be discussing in the next class. A very important concept of joins. Okay, there will be other advanced SQL queries. So these are the constraints, not null. Say for example, uh, we defined in the cyclone. Okay, so using the describe command, we can get the structure of the data set. So cyclone I have, when you do describe on the cyclones data set, you'll get, okay, and here you can see that not null because it's a primary key. So if you try to insert a new row without this value, it will show an error. And that's what the null, not null. We discussed already this. Okay, so if you try to insert just the name and max value without the ID, you'll get an error. You cannot insert null into the cyclone, say the ID, because ID is a not null attribute. We discussed this unique also. I think it's an example created here. You can see, go through foreign key. Okay, I just demonstrated this 74 student. Okay, check constraint you can use to set some conditions. So here we have what we're doing is we're checking whether the landfall date is less than the particular March 31st 21 figure. Okay, so then if you try to add a new record violating the check constraint, the system will throw up an error. Okay, so default criteria we have already seen. These are demonstrated. Okay, so that's it. That is about the basic SQL queries. So in this class we have just discussed the basic SQL queries, but the real power of SQL comes later when we in tomorrow's lecture when we discuss about subqueries, correlated subqueries, joins. Okay, so that is when we'll also be describing about advanced clauses like the having clause. Okay, so the most important concept tomorrow will be joins and also correlated subqueries. So those two are a bit advanced. And again, because you've not yet taken the course on a DBMS, you've not reached the stage of SQL and all. This might be slightly intimidating for you, but I'm just providing the basic stuff that we require for our coverage on web technologies. Okay, so we'll close the session here. I have recorded this video. I'll be providing the video link to you. Watch the video when you're free. Tomorrow also we'll be having a session at 5 o'clock in the morning. I'll be recording that session also and providing the video link. So this will be the background information for units 4 and 5. This is not part of the official syllabus. Okay, this is not required for the web technologies course. Today and tomorrow, whatever we're discussing will not be part of your exam syllabus for this course. It might be useful for you in the RDBMS course. That's not our concern. Okay, our concern is for units 4 and 5 on Java database connectivity. Okay, which will be starting on Wednesday. We require some information because basically there will be working on databases. JDBC is all about working on databases remotely from Java program. See, right now what we're doing, we are working, we are entering into SQL, some tool. This is SQL Developer or SQL Plus, some tool, or maybe directly into Oracle database and working on the queries. But in real life, you'll not be having access to the database. Database will be somewhere else, in a remote computer. Then how are you going to, if you want to insert a value, how are you going to add the value which is not in your system? It's somewhere remotely. And as programmers, you'll be writing programs. So from your program, say for example, you're writing a Java program. From the Java program, how you connect to the database and do maybe insertions, deletions, modifications. So that is JDBC, Java Database Connectivity. How we are using to connect to database from a Java program. Okay, that will be discussing in units 4 and 5. Okay, so for that we require the basic operations you need to do on database, because units 4 and 5 is all about the various operations we do on databases. So for that we require all the basic stuff that we are discussing here. Okay, so we'll end the session here. Try to get Oracle SQL Developer installed. Okay, so once you get that installed, you can practice on my system. And as I told you, how to connect to my system, I provided you the login credentials. use your roll numbers. So student 1 will be using ID student 1, student 49 will be using ID student 49, and the host name and the port number, everything I have provided in the one screenshot. So go through it, okay, and try to work on the practice, the examples you have provided. I'll be posting this handout on Canvas, and you can download SQL Developer and start practicing on these queries. Okay, so tomorrow we'll be having a session on advanced SQL queries. Okay, so I'm adding the session here. Okay, thank you.